Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're back in War Thunder on the update 1.75 dev server, and there are a few new additions, so not just for the French tanks but also for some aircraft. So we're going to go through the aircraft today. The first one is the SB2U2. Now we did have the SB2U3 on the dev server before. Now we have the 2U2. Now I might be getting them mixed up. It's pretty much one of these is new compared to the other one. One has 4 12.7mm, the other has 2 7.7mm. So that's why I believe this is the new one. So what it has, with the 2 7.7mm each wing, a battle rating of 1.3, it also has very similar bomb loads to the other that we talked about. Starts off with 2 100-pounders and a 500, can go up to a 500 and 2 250s, and then a 1000-pounder. The engine power is not too strong, 682 horsepower, and, well, it's going to be quite slow going through the air. Very much like the Devastator, where it's not going to feel very good while flying. It also has a 7.7mm in the back of it, which is very reminiscent to the other one, apart from, as I said, the fact that the guns are different. So it does have a 12.7mm in the turret, and then 4 12.7mm, 2 in each wings. So yeah, that is a new addition to the American tree. Moving on, nothing for Germany, unfortunately, but Russia has 3 new additions in this version of the dev server. We have the Yak-2 KABB. Now we knew the Yak-2 and the Yak-4 would make it to the game after they released the I-29 as the gift vehicle. This is a battle rating 2.3 with 2 20mm, 2 7.62 Shikast machine guns, and if it performs anything like the I-29, well, let's just say it's going to be a lot of fun. You have 1 pilot in the front, that's it. You have the 2 20mm under him, in the just behind him, right here, with 150 rounds each, so a lot of ammunition on them. And the other guns, if we can find them, because they are 2 7.62 Shikasses, are either side of the 20mm as well. So all centrally mounted under the pilot, meaning that convergence is going to be very good on it. It is powered by 2 Klimov M103A 12-cylinder inline engines, 747 horsepower each. If this performs like the I-29, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, because that machine is pretty broken, we'll just say that. The I-29 is here at 2.7, it is a hell of a lot faster than the Yak-2, so we'll have to see. The Yak-4 is the light bomber variant. This is the attacker variant, but I feel like it's going to be much more like a heavy fighter, or at least that's how people are going to use it. The difference between the Yak-4 and the Yak-2 is first of all the guns. So it has a turret in the back with a 7.62 Shikast, which isn't great, but this plane at 2.3 is incredibly fast, so generally the turret you won't really have to use. It does only have 1 forward-mounted offensive 7.62 with 500 rounds, so generally that's going to be pretty useless. That means we have to look at the bomb loads to see what's going to happen. So we have 8 100 kilos. Nothing really special about that. 8 100s at 2.3, yeah, you're going to do decent damage to a base, but it doesn't really have a backup plan. The backup plan is to get back to base with your incredible speed, and be able to stay there, rearm, get up, and do all of that shaboozy again. It is powered, though, by the VK105R 12-cylinder inlines, the Klimovs, so at least you've got that going for you. They're incredibly powerful for 2.3, and you do have 2 of them. This machine will be maneuverable, it will climb really well for a light bomber, and yeah, it's going to be fun to fly. It's just, it feels like it's kind of a middleman. It doesn't really have a place which sits in the tree very well. Or it's kind of a mix between a light bomber and we don't do a lot because we don't have a lot of secondary things that we can do in the game. The next one is another Russian vehicle. This is the Yak-23. A lot of people thought this would be a gift vehicle. No, it's just coming straight to the tree. It is just before the Yak-30, which we see in-game. A very interesting design, and it's mainly because of this engine. This is the Klimov RD-10 jet engine. I believe that is not the actual engine this machine used, or not the main engine it used. I believe it used the RD500 turbojet. So what we're getting here is a slightly underpowered version of a Yak-23. It does have two 23mm with 180 rounds, so at least it has more rounds than some of its counterparts in the Russian tree, and they're also centrally mounted, meaning that convergence shouldn't be too much of an issue. Because it has a smaller engine than some of the other variants of the Yak-23, or at least the main variants, you get a max speed of 731 kilometers an hour, which, compared to the 900, or around 900 that it should have, may feel like a bit like a letdown. The rate of climb is good though, the turn time is going to be great on this machine, and it's going to feel very much like a Yak-17 in the way it plays, or maybe the early MiG-9s, but with a bit more power behind it. 7.3 might be a little bit high for it in its current state, so maybe it gets dropped to 7.0, but we'll have to see how this performs. It's going to be a hard target to hit. This is not a big aircraft, and we already see a lot of people against the Yak-15s and Yak-17s struggle to hit them just because of their odd shape and also how small they are. So maybe this falls into the same category as those machines. The next vehicle that we have is for Britain. This is the V156B-1. This is a Vought series of aircraft, which we see in the French tree as well. So this has 4 7.7mm Brownings, 2 in each of the wings, and also it has a 7.7mm looking out the back. When we look at armor, you know, the 9.5mm is pretty good, and also this, I believe it's the seat, or maybe it's the radio. It might be the radio back there. It is powered by a 682 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R15352 14-cylinder radial, and overall, I feel like it's going to be very similar to the new American light or dive bombers that we have. 1 500, 2 100s, 500, 250 by 2, and then 1000. So exactly the same as the American counterparts that we see in the other part. The only real difference is the guns, which are, of course, Browning machine guns. This isn't going to light anybody's world on fire, but it is nice to have another machine like it. Hopefully they do find their place in the game at some point. Right now, especially in realistic, it is definitely struggling to be one of those aircraft which works out. I've done a few videos on why these aircraft are, well, they struggle in how it all happens, so yeah, go and look at them if you want to know my opinion. There is nothing new that I can see from the Japanese, nothing new for the Italians, and for the French, we do have a new aircraft. So the P-36s, or the H-75s I should call them, have been moved to the fighter tree, which makes sense, and the V156F has been added. So this is a slightly upgraded version of the one that we see from the British, but not really upgraded. It has worse firepower, so only 2 7.5mm and 1,000 rounds of ammunition looking forward. It also has a 7.5mm MLE at 1923 in the back. 750 rounds isn't too bad for a turret. And then it also has the same engine, or maybe a slightly... I'm just going to check that just so I don't make an ass of myself. 682 14-cylinder. Let's have a look at the British one. There we go. It is a 682 14-cylinder. So this actually has more power than the French one. Maybe this version is better than the French one then. But anyway, they're both in a very similar position. Oh no, 682. Okay, so it looks like it's the same engine, so the only difference really is the firepower, and also it doesn't have that plate on it. I don't know if that's a bug and if they're going to add it in, or there just wasn't a plate there for the French version. Modifications wise, you have a, well, I suppose it depends how you see it, but for me it's a worse bomb load. 250 kilos or 2 100s is definitely worse than a 1,000 pounder or 2 250s and a 500, just because of versatility and the amount of tonnage behind the hit. So overall, we have pretty much the 4 versions over 3 trees of this dive bomber, naval bomber, the V156F, then the V156B1, then we also have the SB2U2 and the SB2U3, so yeah, they're all incredibly similar. The only real difference is the armaments between them, and this even has the same armaments as the British one. So overall, yeah, that's they're coming to the game. But what to look forward to on this dev server is the Yak-2 KABB. I feel like that's going to not really be the hidden gem in the rough, but it's going to be the one that people enjoy flying, especially if it sits at 2.3. Remember how good the I-29 is? Well, this is just a slightly worse version of that. Same, pretty much the same amount of guns, just one less 7.62, and a little bit less speed. But overall, gonna be a fun, heavy fighter. It's definitely not an attacker. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.